morning and welcome into the show. It is Daniel Wortman coming to you live from the Dream Imaginate Sports Studios. It is 8 a.m. on the East Coast. This is your 5 a.m. super early West Coast wake-up call in all time zones in between and around the world. Busy day today on the show. Got a lot to cover, and hope you'll stay tuned to get through it all. We have a lot going on. An article released yesterday causing a whirlwind within U.S. soccer. I don't know if you realize this. We've talked a little bit about it on the show. We've actually played a role behind the scenes in trying to help support part of a movement that U.S. soccer has been fighting against in the legal system, this with the Court of Arbitration in Sport, in support of promotion and relegation. And they won their case due to some capitulation, I guess is a good word to use, from FIFA in the Court of Arbitration in Sport. But U.S. Soccer escaped, and doesn't mean that we don't continue to press on and work towards equality and equal access opportunity for every American club in this country. That is the fight and the mission, that every club, regardless of where you're from, regardless of your ownership structure, should have the opportunity to build itself as big as it possibly can and rise as far and as high as it possibly can on its on-field performance. That is how the rest of the world works, and that's how America should work. We should not have closed off, really socialist sports systems, closed leagues, gatekeepers. Only certain people are in, certain people are out, and those within are operating under constraints so that no one can be better than the other. They disguise that under the word parity. It's all lack of quality and excellence in the end. No one can reach their potential in that system, even those included in that system. And so we work every day, talk every day, try to educate every day people about that issue. So we're going to get into that here in a little bit on the show, in terms of an article that came out yesterday, and a former U.S. national team, men's national team coach, in his words about the subject. Very, very, very interesting. In other news, before we get into all that, there's a bunch of stuff going on. Yesterday, Barcelona played in Napoli. It was not a clean game from Barcelona's standpoint. You can tell the squad. I mean, if you've paid any attention to Barcelona over the last few years and then watch this squad now, they are very, very thin. They don't have a lot of depth. They don't have a lot of healthy bodies. And watching them yesterday, you could see it. I mean, it's basically just grit and determination. They're trying to find their way through. Guys are logging lots of minutes right now, trying to valiantly help the team advance in the league, advance in the Champions League, and regardless, they keep working, they keep trying, they keep playing. And yesterday, they were able to get a result, 1-1 away at Napoli. The one goal they gave up, they got caught on the counter, and it was a goal that I thought was going to haunt them. Not catastrophic, but the way that they were playing with the ball, having much of the ball in Napoli's half, but not really in any lethal position. I thought that was going to really, really haunt them. They were able to, thanks to Sergio Busquets, really, really nice ball pass that he played in, they were able to get the goal back and actually take the away goal advantage back to Barcelona for the return leg. So, right now they're through on away goals, and they'll have the support of the home crowd. Hopefully, in the return leg here coming up in a couple weeks, they'll be able to, see that through, get a goal or two, and then really kind of be able to, relax a little bit, not on the field, but in terms of the tension on the field. So we'll see how it goes. But they were able to get a result yesterday. And regardless of that, Busquets, who played an integral role in the goal that Barca scored yesterday to get the 1-1 draw away at Napoli, spoke about the fact that Barca's squad is too thin. He talked about after the 1-1 draw how and was critical of the leadership of the club in their squad planning in terms of the the club itself and the squad that it has available. Busquets was booked in the second half, and so now he'll be suspended for the return leg at the Camp Nou. That's a major problem. Arturo Vidal lost his head at the end of the match. He's out for the next match because he got 2 yellows in 5 seconds and saw red. Piqué limped off with an ankle problem in stoppage time. I'm hoping that isn't that bad, that he'll have time by March 18th to be back. Maybe he can even get back for the Clásico, hopefully. But Barca's already without Dembele. They're without Luis Suarez. And yesterday, just to fill out the squad, this is what people don't realize. They're seeing guys on the field, and they're like, well, how are they this short? For the squad to fill out the match day squad for the Champions League, they had to bring 4 Barca B players with them for the bench just to make up their numbers. Busquets went on to say that Semedo and I were 1 booking away from a ban, so we were always running that risk, talking about that risk of suspension for the return leg. We hope Piqué's injury is nothing serious, but we will take on the second leg with what we have. We don't have a deep squad because, unfortunately, that's how it was planned. Ivan Rakitic, who, in my opinion, his days should have already been over at Barcelona. He's not been up to the level for quite a while, but he's still there. He went on to say, we have a short squad, but those that are in charge knew that. The solution is what it is. Those that are available will have to work really hard because we have an important match in the second leg. You look at Jordi Alba, you look at Sergio Roberto, two key figures that were out and missing. They won't be back for the Clásico, but they should be ready for the Napoli game in a few weeks. So, that's good news, but still you're without these players during the interim, especially a big match like the Clásico. Could ultimately be what determines the outcome of the league. So, a lot of unhappy players there in terms of the way that the squad has been set up and what they feel like would be a lack of support. So, all eyes on Barcelona as there's still some drama there swirling around the club and the players and how they feel, at the moment. So, in other news, here's some bizarre news. I don't know if you watch any club football, club soccer in Romania, but Gigi Bacali, the flamboyant owner of Bucharest Football Club (FCSB), formerly known as Steaua Bucharest, and I'm sure I probably butchered the name, but it is what it is, thinks he knows what is to blame for his team's recent poor run in the Romanian league. Too much chitty chitty bang bang. Yep. My players are having a little too much fun with their girlfriends too often. That's why they aren't playing football so well lately. Oh, wow. So, yeah, there's a major problem in Romania. There might be, according to this owner, there might be a flurry of babies coming soon to hospitals there in Romania, and we'll just have to pay attention and see if that's one way they're trying to grow their squad going forward. Another funny, bizarre story. Klinsmann back in the news. He blasts Hertha Berlin, and it looks like this saga, which, he was frustrated and said, "I quit." They're frustrated. They said they quit, and now it seems to be that they are not getting beyond each other and are continuing to go at each other and not let up. So he's got another back and forth, and we'll see how that shapes up, in terms of where he is and what kind of fallout there is between the club, Jurgen himself. That is definitely a soap opera, a German soap opera that is just festering, and it wouldn't shock me to see even more come out for a couple of reasons, because it seems to be that Jurgen really enjoys this. He really enjoys this whole back and forth, the drama. And so, I think he's going to continue to try to, find ways to keep that part of the conversation and in the public eye here over, the next few weeks. So, in other news, City have launched a fight against their Champions League ban. Are we surprised? We knew this was coming. They talked about it immediately after after the news came out that they were going to fight this, and no one's surprised on that. Pep Guardiola said that he's seen the books. He does not believe that City have broken the rules. So don't know where this ends up. I would be shocked if what came out as a ruling stands by itself. Just because I think that they're going to find a way to either get it reduced, which very well could mean a year. I don't know that they're going to get off scot-free, but they could get the year. But I definitely don't see them being banned for 2 years. We talked about on the show that if it does stand, it seems to be that I think Pep and others would just say, "Hey, look, we tried, and but now we are going to move on." Because none of those players want to stick around and be a part of that. in that way, at least in my view. So anyway, so that is part of the news that's been going on around in football and soccer here in the last day or so. Today, we have more Champions League action. Lyon hosting Juventus and Madrid hosting Manchester City. And so, big match there in Madrid. Can Manchester City be able to set aside the distractions of this Champions League ban and all the drama and things going on, and be able to really get into the groove of the game and really make it a game? Or do they allow that to get in the way? Knowing Pep, he's going to try to do everything in his power to keep his players focused on the job at hand, because they know, and this is one thing to me that makes Man City dangerous in this competition for this season. They know as of right now, this is their chance. Their backs are against the wall. You got all these phrases. Their backs are against the wall. It's kind of one of those burn the ships moment. There's no going back. This is our only shot. There is an innate sense of urgency for the club. They want to win, and they want to win it this year. They know their window is closing no matter what. And right now, they feel like it's definitely closing, because they as of right now are not even able to play for the next 2 seasons unless they get a ruling that changes it. So that urgency, I think, is going to actually play in Pep's favor in getting his players ready to play. They are going to want to prove to the world that they are worthy of being in the competition and that they're going to win this competition. I felt like going into this season, this was going to be their priority. This ruling has only made it more important for them and more motivated, if there could be such a thing, because they were already more motivated for this. This is the thing they wanted. They would love to have the league again, but they really want the Champions League, and they know this is their best shot. And so if they can knock out Madrid, and in these 2 legs, they've got a very, very real shot of finishing this thing off. And I think they're going to be motivated to do so. The key is, can they get past Madrid? It's going to be a tough test, and it's going to be a tall ask, but they are going to come forward, and we'll see how this game shapes up. With Man City playing away at Madrid in the first leg, I actually think that is better for them than if it was the other way around. So, if they can go and hold Madrid, or at least, draw Madrid and get an away goal, then I think they are set up for a good return leg. They don't want to have to go home and win, 2-0 because they lost at Madrid 2-0 or 1-0 or what have you. So I think they're going to try to get that away goal, and I think they're going to try to set themselves up for a return leg that is going to be one to keep an eye on. So we'll see how that goes. Our sponsor this half hour is Ductic Brand, DUKTIG brand.com. They are the makers of some very, very good resources for coaches, for players, for goalkeepers who are for players, but I'm just pointing out they have stuff for you specifically as well. They also have apparel. If you go to ductigbrand.com, DUKTIG brand.com, and use promo code DWShow, you can get 10% off of your order at ductigbrand.com, DUKTIG brand.com today. DW Show, that'll give you 10% off of your order at ductigbrand.com. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back into the show. It is Wednesday, February the 26th. The days are flying by and 2020 is flying by. Just crazy how fast this year is already going. We are going to get to, we teased at the top of the show, an article with comments about promotion relegation from a former U.S. men's national team manager, and we are going to get to that in a moment. But before we do, I want to get to another important topic, and that is our Women's Professional League. An article in Forbes by Michael Leray, what the NWSL can learn from the WNBA's new collective bargaining agreement. This came out yesterday, and it features a little bit of Sydney Leroux. Now, if you've paid any attention to the U.S. women's national team over the last 10 years, you know the name Sydney Leroux, and she has not featured for the national team in a couple of years, but she was a main feature for the team, and during this these last few years, except before the last few years, she's been a main feature for the team. Sydney Leroux admits she spent more money on babysitters and nannies for her children than she made last year playing for the Orlando Pride in the NWSL. A mother of two, Leroux said it's hard for women to be a mother and play in the top professional women's soccer league in the United States. The NWSL Players Association estimates there are 7 players with children competing in the 9-team league. If you're not on the national team, you're sitting in the back seat. I think we need to make it important that it touches everybody. What we're doing is only affecting certain people, and I think that's not good enough because we're losing out on really good athletes because you can't survive on an NWSL salary. People have different jobs. People's parents are helping them, and that's not okay. This isn't a hobby. This is our livelihood. Currently, there is no collective bargaining agreement in the NWSL. The league announced the 2020 salary cap is $650,000, excluding allocation money, spread among approximately 20 players per team. This season, teams are also permitted to purchase up to $300,000 from the league as allocation money that would permit a player's salary to be greater than the league maximum. The new maximum salary is $50,000, while the minimum is $20,000, both up approximately $4,000 apiece from 2019. In other words, a little over $300 a month. NWSL players who play for the national team, though, are represented by the United States Women's National Team Players Association and are paid by U.S. Soccer. The league announced there are 32 players in 2020 who will have their salaries paid by the Federation or by the Canadian Soccer Association. Currently, the 16 to 21 players under contract with U.S. Soccer are paid $100,000 by the Federation. LaRue, a forward, has 35 goals in 77 appearances for the U.S. women's national team, but hasn't featured since the 2017 Tournament of Nations after helping guide the team to a gold medal at the 2012 Olympics in London and the 2015 FIFA Women's World Cup in Canada. The NWSL, founded in 2012, only acknowledged the NWSL Players Association as a legal union in November 2018. Many players, including U.S. Women's National Team legend Carly Lloyd, who plays for Sky Blue FC, and LaRue, have spoken out about working conditions, pay, and benefits. There is no guaranteed paid maternity leave. How do we have a women's professional soccer league in America with no paid maternity leave? What are we doing? It just U.S. Soccer is involved with the league. They help with the operations of the league. Not just paying players, but they help actually run the league. How do we not have these common sense things in place? No guaranteed paid maternity leave? I mean, this is crazy. LaRue, who had her son Cassius in September 2016, returned to action for FC Kansas City in April 2017. Midway through the season, her husband, Dom Dwyer, was traded from Sporting Kansas City to Orlando City SC, so LaRue had no choice but to manage as a single mother. 2 years later, LaRue, who was traded to the Orlando Pride in February 2018, began preseason nearly 6 months pregnant. The couple welcomed their daughter, Rue, in June 2019, with LaRue returning to the field a mere 3 months later. Orlando Pride teammate Alex Morgan, who recently helped the U.S. women's national team win the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup, plans to play in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics at the end of July after the birth of her baby girl in April. Hoping players don't have to decide between motherhood or career, LaRue wants the NWSL to use the WNBA's new CBA as a foundation for a potential model moving forward to help support its players, especially mothers. Look at the WNBA and how far they've come, she said. The WNBA's groundbreaking eight-year CBA, approved in January 2020, not only significantly increased pay for players, but also included enhanced travel standards, child care and support, and maternity and family benefits. We wanted to show we're in this with a very player-first agenda, WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert said. Quite frankly, in 5 years, we'll look back and say we lifted all of women's sports. We can only hope. The top players in the WNBA can earn in excess of $500,000 in cash compensation, while the average cash compensation for players is approximately $130,000. The new CBA also provides many benefits and opportunities for mothers and families. Players will receive their full salary while on maternity leave. Hello. An annual child care stipend of $5,000, 2-bedroom apartments for players with children, and up to a $60,000 reimbursement for veteran players for costs related to adoption, surrogacy, or fertility treatment. When I came from my time at Deloitte, which is a long history of being progressive on some of these benefits, I said these are professional athletes who are giving up 10 to 15 years of their careers to play and perform at the highest level. It's tough to be a mom in the business world, let alone be a mom who is a pro athlete. It was really important for us to have a holistic package for all of our moms. We can only hope that the NWSL learns from the example of the WNBA in this recent CBA, because as you heard yesterday on the show, our interview with Jill Ellis on the red carpet of the Laureate Sports Awards, she talked about the need for the NWSL, our league, to continue to grow, but not only just grow, it needs to get better. More investment, more support, more resources. This is an area where if we want to continue to have the best women's national team program in the world, our women's professional league needs that support to be the incubator for that program, so that our players are playing against the best players in the world, that they're being taken care of, that they have all the motivation to get better, that we are not creating unnecessary hardships for them. I mean, I could go on and on about the support that we need to have for our women's professional league, the NWSL, and women's soccer in general in this country. The fact that these ladies are doing what they're doing, in kind of blazing a trail. I'm glad that we have women committed to the game that are willing to do this, but we need to support them and really speak up and speak out and work to make sure that they are enjoying these opportunities to play and not go broke. To me, it's just it's an absurdity that we are in this position with our women's league, and I hope that we do get a CBA very soon that allows us, and more importantly, allows those players to play in a league where they have resources, where they have support, and are able to, do their job on the field without having these working conditions to deal with. So kudos to Sydney LaRue, to Carly Lloyd, and others who are speaking up on this. Yael Averbush West, she is playing an integral role in this as well. And, hats off to all of you ladies, and in that quest to continue to provide resources, investment into the women's game. We need it. And we need it desperately. So I teased at the top of the show and said that there was a U.S. men's national team coach that spoke up about promotion and relegation. This article came out yesterday. This is, about 2 weeks after this Court of Arbitration in Sport case was publicly announced, the outcome was publicly announced. And so we have some comments. And really, it was not an article about the Court of Arbitration and Sport case, which is what makes these comments so, to me, much more impactful, because it comes from a genuine outlook on the game and not necessarily on one agenda. But before we get into that, 442 a while back published 1988 when U.S. Soccer made plans for a new and revolutionary promotion and relegation system. And in this plan, they were basically laying out an opportunity for clubs anywhere in this country to build and to grow and to launch. At the time, there was no professional soccer, so they were looking at a way to get professional soccer in the sport. It was going to be a regionalized pyramid, and it was going to, build itself towards, a viable professional league at the top. The short-term plan for the men's national team at the time was to do well at the Summer Olympics and qualify for the 1990 World Cup. You see, we had not been making World Cups for a long time, and we know how that turned out thanks to Paul Caligiuri, who got us into World Cup 1990. And the long-term idea for 1988 with the plan, the medium term, was a 6-year plan to produce a men's national team that was properly prepared for the 94 World Cup, which we were going to host. No host team had failed to reach the second round, and the Americans could not afford to embarrass themselves. The plans were passed by acclamation by the National Council at the annual general meeting in Philadelphia in 1988. Werner Fricker, then the U.S. Soccer president, said the development plan would emphasize the short and medium-term goals, while the long-term goals, although of course equally important, will necessarily require much more time and careful nurturing at the grassroots level. So U.S. Soccer, that's membership, passed by acclamation at its AGM in Philadelphia in 1988 a plan for promotion and relegation. The long-term task, this is the one that was more daunting, was to establish not only a viable first division professional league, but supporting second and third tiers that would include promotion and relegation. With a relegation and promotion system that is unique to American sports, there is no precedent. Scott Letelier, the then counsel for World Cup 1994, said at the time, this would be new and revolutionary. 3 decades later, it would still be revolutionary. U.S. Soccer has not adopted promotion relegation, and it isn't anywhere close to happening at the highest levels, as MLS leadership has made clear. So we're not going to get into all of the he said, she said, what coulda, woulda. That's for another day. But I wanted to kind of give that little bit of a backdrop so we can get into these comments coming up here after the break. And the comments I'm referring to are Bob Bradley, former U.S. men's national team coach, in his thoughts about growing the game and promotion and relegation. But before we do, our sponsor this half hour is Charity Water. Charity Water provides clean drinking water to people all over the world, and they do amazing work, and you can be a part of doing amazing work just by simply donating to charitywater.org. 100% of your donation goes to the cause. It does not go to offices or support staff. That is all raised separately. So you can donate your birthday, your anniversary. You could just donate money today to charitywater.org and help those around the world who need clean drinking water to get it by going to charitywater.org today. We'll be right back after this.
No one, no man, no woman, no child should ever have to drink green water with bugs, with algae, with disease in it. Bad water and a lack of toilets kills more people than all the wars in the world. We know how to bring clean drinking water right now to every single person on earth. And when you can bring water into communities, it truly transforms them. It changes everything. Or you could know that you'd made a difference. You could know that you had truly impacted the life of a family, of a community, of a region. There was either clean water or there wasn't. We believe in a world where every single person has clean and safe water to drink, and we will continue fighting until that happens.
Thanks for tuning in on this Wednesday, February the 26th. As we have been teasing all show, we are getting into some juicy comments here from Bob Bradley in Sports Illustrated. Grant Wall yesterday published a story as MLS hits 25th year. What comes next for the league? Now, I'm going to tell you, most of the other comments, before we get into Bob Bradley's comments, not great. I don't know if that is because they are worried about Don Garber or if, it's just par for the course. For example, Bruce Arena, who was asked, what does he think about the next 25 years? And he says this, quote, I think in the 50th anniversary of MLS, we're going to be able to say we're the best league in the world. What happens between year 25 and 50, I can't tell you. But there's going to be progress. Okay, Bruce. Yeah. So let's get into Bob Bradley, who, when we look at Major League Soccer, one of the questions that's often talked about, and we've talked about on the show, is that it is nowhere close to being a top league in the world. Not just a top European league, but a top league in the world. Its pay structure is that of a third division league, not even a second division league in many countries. So when we look at where we are, we've got a smattering of a few first division players in like the DPs, and then everyone else are really more like third division level in terms of their pay. Some maybe second division. Overall, the league is operating somewhere in that second to third division status. So we're not even in first division status in many of the top countries in terms of quality, investment, resources, stadium capacity, etc. There is no area where our first division league is even operating as a first division league in Italy, Spain, France, Germany, England, etc., etc. So our league, we have to first accept where we are. Our top men's league is second or third rate in terms of divisional status. Even though here we're calling them first division, over there they would not be classified as a first division. If they were to apply as, for divisional status as a league in, let's say, England, they're not going to get first division status. They would not even get second division status. They would likely get third or fourth division status in England. And that would also mean they'd have to adopt promotion relegation because everything's connected over there. But the point is, the quality of the league, the operations of the league, the amount of resources and investments and infrastructure in the league, they are somewhere in the third tier of England in their operation. That is what that means for us, looking at where we are and looking into the next 25 years, which is what makes Bruce Arena's comments so bizarre, is that our league, in order to be first division status and best in the world, we not only have to beat out La Liga and Serie A and the Bundesliga and the Premier League, we've got to beat out the Championship and Serie B, etc. We've got a big hill to climb here in order to really get to where we want to go. So what sort of changes will need to take place now that MLS, with 26 teams this season, has matured into an adolescent league and isn't in danger of folding anymore? So they're not in danger of folding anymore. They've got this financial pipeline from the federation that continues to feed the league resources, away from the NWSL, the women's league, and into. But here we are, where there's a league, and it's not in danger of folding anymore. So what are Bob Bradley's thoughts? Bob has coached for 5 MLS teams. He was around in the very beginning, in the first year, and so much of building a team in a club is about finding an identity that reflects the city where it plays. This is Grant Wall speaking about Bob Bradley. He did it with an expansion team in Chicago that won MLS Cup in its first year, 1998. Behind Polish star Peter Novak, now Bradley has done it with an expansion team at LAFC that won the 2019 Supporter Shield, led by Mexican star Carlos Vela. They didn't win MLS Cup, but they did have the best record. What direction does Bob Bradley want to see MLS take in the next 25 years? It comes back to clubs having identities. Quote, now I'm going to say some controversial things. Get rid of the geographical limitations on homegrown rights areas and the requirements of having academies at all. In my view, if different clubs have different identities, if you don't want to have an academy, you shouldn't have to have one. If you want to just buy big names, buy big names. And then there's going to be clubs that are known that they find young talent that fits their model and develops and gives opportunities. I've spent time at Athletic Bilbao in Spain. Bradley continues. If you are a young kid and you come through the system, what you know is you'll be given the chance, if you're good, to play on the first team. So I think we need a version of that in MLS. And so homegrown rights, throw them out the window, okay? If there's a kid that Red Bull New York thinks is the next version of Tyler Adams and he lives in LA, he should go to Red Bull, all right? If there's a kid that fits a little bit of how we want to play wherever he is, and he watches us play and he thinks that's the place he can develop, then he should come to LAFC. I agree with him. Territories are absurd. Another one, institute training compensation and solidarity payments across all clubs in the United States. For me, I think we need to take the handbrakes off. I think we need to go for it. And now the big part is that we need to do it in a way that we make everybody feel more part of something together. And so that means that if there are clubs out there, youth clubs, and you have a player from the time he's 12 until 16, and then at 16 he goes to an academy, and then somewhere along the line he gets sold, there needs to be something that goes to the club that had him from when he was 12 to 16. You can't just look the other way at these clubs. Find a way to institute promotion and relegation. What eventually has to happen is we need promotion and relegation, Bradley says. And I say eventually. Could it happen in 2 years, 4 years? Obviously, you have ownership like LAFC. They put in a lot of money. They invest a lot of money. They built the stadium, so I understand that part. But right now, there's a feeling by too many that they're not part of the game in this country. And we have to work harder to change that. We have to do it by giving more opportunities. Hello! If a small club anywhere in the country gets its act together, knows how to provide playing opportunities for young kids, has good coaching, and can develop players, if there's a team there, and then at some point they can go from the 5th league to the 4th league to the 3rd league to the 2nd league, so on and so forth. I coached 2 years at Stabæk in Norway. The people that I met had this dream that Stabæk was in the 5th league and they could get to the top. And then when I arrived, they had been in the top and they had dropped down a league, and they were the same people with the same ideas. And I think we need more of that. I think we need to connect more dots and make more people feel part of it. Grant Wall went on to say, Bradley is right, of course. Those comments will be seen as controversial in many quarters, especially among most MLS owners and people who run the league office, i.e. Don Garber. Promotion and relegation in particular seems to be hard to see through, especially now with the recent decision by the Court of Arbitration in Sport. But Bradley is also one of the most respected coaches in MLS, and his views, no doubt, are shared by other soccer people. Bottom line, every single thing that Bob Bradley said was right. Every single thing. Let me sum it up for you. What Bob Bradley said was this: FIFA compliance in all areas, in all ways, at all levels. U.S. Soccer won with a loophole in the Court of Arbitration in Sport case. This is not something Grant Wall explained in his article. They had gotten an exemption, a verbal exemption, but an exemption that was on the record of the minutes of a FIFA meeting, council meeting in 2007 by none other than the notorious Chuck Blazer. Name sound familiar? That Chuck Blazer. The money laundering, arrested by the FBI, Chuck Blazer, who had been doing all of the dirty dealing for U.S. Soccer and CONCACAF with FIFA. That same Chuck Blazer, who Sunil Gulati and Don Garber and Carlos Cordero have all been in cahoots with over the years before he got caught and before he passed away, that same Chuck Blazer had secured a verbal exemption from Article 9, where FIFA said that all countries should operate their leagues where teams' entrance into a league is primarily based on on-field performance, i.e. sporting merit. They secured an exemption, a verbal exemption. They refused to write a formal written exemption into the rule, but acknowledged that an exemption had been given to the United States. And so, therefore, in the Court of Arbitration and Sport case, this was one of the primary defenses that U.S. Soccer used to secure its victory. They've not made us in the past. They can't make us now. Even though the rule is clearly written, there is no interpretation other than this original intent that every country operates with promotion and relegation. FIFA got caught bending its own rules and therefore had to defend U.S. Soccer in the case and basically say, yeah, we did that. And yep, we have the right to do that and the right to determine our own rules. And the Court of Arbitration and Sport said, well, it's FIFA's rules. If they decide to do it, there's nothing we can do to them. It's their rules. And that's how Miami and Stockade lost their case. Not what the intent of the rule was, but the fact that they had already secured an exemption and then FIFA stood by the ability to give them the exemption. But when we look at this case and we look at these thoughts from Bob Bradley, getting rid of geographical limitations on homegrown rights makes total sense. What if the club closest to me plays a version of the game that doesn't identify with me? What if I'm a big, tall forward and a more direct style of play suits me? And I'm in Atlanta, and Atlanta wants to play a possession, positional type of play with a high possession and not really utilize a big, strong forward. They want to use a bunch of smaller players on the field. What if Chicago wants to be that more direct type of play? That makes sense that a player should be able to choose where he wants to go. There should be freedom for the player. It's not just about the club. I mean, Bob's talking about, Red Bull and what they look at and he mentions the player and what they're, but really it's about the player. The freedom should be for the player. If I'm a kid and I want to play for a different club, I should have that freedom to go to that club. Instituting training compensation and solidarity payments across the board. You want to drive investment into the game at all levels? This is it. This is how we do it. Develop really good players. Let's get the money flowing in the direction of player development, not in the direction of flashy marketing, exclusivity. Like, we're the DA for this area, so you have to pay us your money, and that's how we earn our money. And, like, all of that kind of posturing, that's the problem with the game in the youth space. We have a bunch of people that do their jobs based on the current environment, not based on necessarily having to prove they know what they're doing when it comes to development. How many kids are coming out of clubs where parents are paying hundreds, thousands of dollars, and you're like, man, that kid is amazing. Those teams play really, really well. Right now, they don't have to. In many cases, they're the only show in town. What do they have to compete against? What incentive is there for them to develop players and their coaches, quite frankly? Or are they just dressed up, glorified babysitting services? Do they provide your kid, and you for that matter, youth sports entertainment and not actual soccer development? So solidarity payments and training compensation would be a step in that direction of getting resources flowing in the right direction. And then obviously, finally, the big one, opportunity and access for everyone, everywhere. If you're good enough, you should be able to go up, period. No gatekeepers. If you can find players, develop a club identity, and work your way up the ladder, you should be able to do so. It will be very difficult for players to make their way, and teams to make their way up the pyramid. It's going to be very difficult. Major League Soccer teams, many of them will have nothing to worry about for a very long time because they have such a big head start. But that does not mean that clubs and cities and communities should not have the opportunity to do it. We should be trying to build bridges everywhere to everyone in every community at every level. This should be the business of the Federation. Ensuring equal access, opportunity, resources, funding, that all of these things are operating in a way that is beneficial to the entire system, the collective. Doesn't mean everyone ends up at the same level. It doesn't mean that everyone is going to get to first division, but we should be connected. Plain and simple. So kudos to Bob Bradley. Great thoughts from him, and he's right on every single comment he made. He is right. Thanks for watching the show. As always, you can watch on BegaTV.com, and you can also watch on DanielWorkman.com, Facebook.com/WRKMN, on Twitter. You can also catch me on Instagram or Twitter at Daniel Workman. My DMs are open, so shoot me up with any comments or thoughts as always. Thanks for watching. We'll see everyone again tomorrow.